Why do men commit evil under the cover of night? Why do children play joyfully in the moonlight? Why are disputes settled in the light of day? The answer, according to West African legend, lies in a story of Nyame the sky god, his sons, and the cunning spider, Anansi. Nyame sired 3 children one day, Ejim or night, Osran the moon, and Oya the sun. All 3 grew to be successful, but Nyame considered his son, Oya, as his favorite, intending to make him a chief. Nyame thus proposed a challenge. Nyame decided that the son who could guess the name of a yam he had secretly harvested, known as Kintinki, would become the next chief and receive his royal stool. Soon Nyame blackened his royal stool and asked his subjects if they could guess what his thoughts were. Anansi happened to be there and said that he knew, but was lying. Nyame told Anansi to gather his sons from the villages, and in the process Anansi plotted to uncover the secret. Anansi gathered feathers from every bird known and used them to fly, posing as a bird above Nyame's village. The god didn't recognize Anansi and began to repeat his desire for Oya to receive his stool by guessing the yam's name. Anansi then did as Nyame asked and told Ejim and Osran to meet with Nyame. Ejim gave Anansi roasted corn in exchange, while Osran gave him a yam. Then Anansi arrived at Oya's village and informed Oya his father wished to see him. Oya acknowledged his father's wishes and then prepared the best sheep for Anansi to eat as thanks. In return, Anansi decided to tell Oya of his father's intentions in secret, revealing the name of the yam he'd harvested. Anansi then made a pair of drums that would shout the yam's name so that Oya would remember the name of Nyame's yam, which was Kintinki, and the 2 returned to the other sons of Nyame. Anansi brought them each before Nyame, and Nyame called an assembly together so they could welcome them all. The sky god revealed his intentions to his 3 sons and allowed them each to guess in order of birth. Ejim, who was the oldest, did not know the name of Nyame's yam and said its name was Pona, drawing boos from the crowd. Osran, the second oldest, also failed and assumed it was called Ashanti, causing the audience to boo him also. Oya, the youngest, was then given a chance to guess. Anansi played the drums, as he had promised, and Oya remembered the true name of Nyame's yam, Kintinki. Everyone cheered in response. As a result, Nyame punished his son Ejim and said evil things thus would happen during Ejim's time. He told Osran that only children would play during his. As for Oya, Nyame praised him and made a chief, saying that any issue that needed to be settled would take place during his time. Nyame gave Oya a rainbow as a promise that he and his village would be protected from his brothers. Lastly, he gave Anansi his blessing for knowing his inner thoughts and made Anansi his messenger. Anansi went to the sky god Nyame one day. He wanted to take one of Nyame's sheep, named Kwame, and eat it. Anansi told Nyame that if he was allowed, he would bring Nyame a maiden as a gift from one of the villages in return. Nyame agreed and gave him the sheep, so Anansi left and set out for his home, later preparing the sheep. Once he was finished preparing it, Anansi searched for a village and discovered one where only women lived. The spiders settled there and gave each of them some of the sheep he had killed, marrying every woman in the village and forsaking his promise to Nyame. Soon, however, a hunter visited the village that Anansi had settled in and witnessed what he was doing. The hunter soon left and went to Nyame, reporting what he'd seen in the village. Nyame became furious upon learning of Anansi's deception and ordered his messengers to go to the village Anansi was living in and take every woman there. His messengers obeyed and took every woman, save one that was ill at that time, and presented them to Nyame. Disappointed, Anansi wasn't sure what he'd do, as he now only had one remaining wife, as she was too sick to help him. He asked her, and she simply told Anansi to gather a gourd and bathe her, filling up the gourd with the water he'd used afterward. That water would then house all of the diseases that had afflicted her. Anansi obeyed his wife, and she became incredibly beautiful. Anansi realized she was more beautiful than any of the other wives he'd taken on while living in the tribe. In fact, and smitten by her, Anansi remarried the woman. Yet the hunter visited the village again. He saw Anansi's wife, now beautiful beyond comparison, and returned to Nyame to report what he'd discovered. The hunter told Nyame that Anansi had tricked him, because the women that Nyame had taken from Anansi were all hideous in comparison to the beautiful woman Anansi had as his current wife. Nyame was furious again, then ordered his messengers to send for her, and they went to Anansi's village looking for the woman. Anansi met them, and they told him of Nyame's wish. He complied, showed them where his wife was, and they took her with them to Nyame. Anansi, however, had a plan of his own and began his scheme once they left. Anansi searched for the gourd that had the water he'd bathed his wife with, and then took a skin and made a drum with it. He then made another drum and called for his son Tikuma. Together the two began beating the drums and dancing while singing vulgarities. Anin the crow, another messenger of Nyame, saw what Anansi was doing and told Nyame about the dance. Nyame then sent his messengers and asked them to bring Anansi to him, as he wanted the spider to perform the dance for him. Anansi, however, told them that he could only perform his dance around his wives, and that he needed his drum. He promised that he would dance before Nyame if he agreed to this. So the messengers informed Nyame, and he agreed to Anansi's terms. The messengers then brought Anansi to the harem where his wives were kept, and he began playing. Soon Nyame came and danced to the song, while the former wives of Anansi joined in. Anansi's final wife, however, recognized the gourd Anansi's drum was made from, and decided not to dance, suspecting Anansi's trickery. Yet she was coerced into joining Nyame in the performance. Before she could begin, however, Anansi opened the drum and tossed all the water from the gourd. All of the diseases that were once washed away returned, and sickness fell upon the tribe. So it was that the Sky God caused Anansi to bring all illnesses to the world. And that is why, in the tales of old, evil lurks at night, children laugh in the moonlight, justice rules in the day, and why disease haunts humankind. All because of Anansi, the trickster, the messenger, the weaver of fate. This is Shadow Time History, where the shadows of Africa's past come alive. Subscribe and join me for the next story, Hidden in Time.